Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. Today, I have to admit that I am wrong. I predicted the Super Bowl would be the Indianapolis Colts versus the Detroit Lions, and as you can see, the Detroit Lions lost today. However, in a video post I did about a week back, I pointed out that after the Week 17 games, the Dallas Cowboys made me start to doubt my Detroit Lions pick because they finished their last game of the regular season with a score of 44 points, and that 44th point came on a clear and obvious gimmick. The Cowboys should have been kneeling the ball and running out the clock. They had no reason to play for more points, but they ended up getting a very long touchdown on what seemed like an uncontested run, giving them a sum of 44. And again, Truth Seeker, I made all these predictions early on based on 44 years ago. These are the playoffs 44 years ago. Notice the Cowboys faced the Lions and advanced in the first round. They defeated the Detroit Lions 5-0. Rare score. This was for Super Bowl V. This was the 5th Super Bowl ever. Also notice the Colts defeated the Bengals. Both of these games happened today. Cowboys, Lions, Colts, Bengals. This is 44 years later. It was the Week 3 prediction I made based on 44 years earlier. Take a peek, Truth Seeker. Andrew Luck won today. He had 44 passing attempts. 44. This game started at the curious time of 4:40. Typically, NFL games start at 4:30, 4:35. But today it started at 4:40 with the emphasis on 4-4. And it finished with a sum of 20-24. And if you saw this game, the Lions came in and played a great first quarter. They went up 14-0. Then the Cowboys rallied back and took the lead in the very end. What was curious is there was a pass interference called in favor of the Lions, and it looked like a legit pass interference call. And then very late, the call was overturned. And even the announcers commented on how curious the late overturn of the pass interference was. And it was what they typically call pass interference in the league. The defender did not turn his head around. He ran into the offensive player early. He probably would have caught it if it didn't happen. So it was a surprise to see it overturned. Then making matters more curious, in the end of the game, Matthew Stafford fumbled. Dallas recovered. And had they just gone straight down on the ground, they would have won the game. But instead, the defensive player ended up fumbling it in what looked very hoax-like and gave Lions one more opportunity. And anyhow, it's possible that I overthought this, Truth Seeker. I made all these calls based on Week 3, and I saw something in the Lions-Packers score that made me think they were the likely NFC opponent. I also noticed that in the preseason, they were the only team with 33-1 odds to win the Super Bowl. Also, it has been 33 years since the Lions hosted a Super Bowl, the first time they hosted it. And as it happens, Lions are one of 3 teams with a 33 gematria. They are the Seahawks, Lions, and Bengals. And the Seahawks won their first Super Bowl last year. I was seeing the theme how the Lions might win their first Super Bowl this year. But perhaps I should have just followed the theme of 44 years ago, because 44 years ago, Truth Seeker, the Cowboys did advance over the Lions just as the Colts advanced over the Bengals. So, maybe I overthought it. I just wanted to show you, this is the new playoff picture based on all the games that happened this weekend. What's interesting about this, well, there's 2 things interesting about these NFC matchups. First of all, the Seahawks are now playing the Panthers. These are the only 2 teams in the history of the NFL to ever make it to the playoffs with a losing record. The Carolina did it this year with a losing record, and the Seahawks did it with a 7-9 record. Panthers were 7-8-1. Seahawks were 7-9. These are the only 2 teams to ever make the playoffs with losing records. Seattle did that years back when Marshawn Lynch defeated the New Orleans Saints after a run that started at, yes, the 33-yard line. The Beast Quake, as it's known. All right, so this is a curious game. I do expect the Seahawks to win. I expect the Seahawks to win. Why? Because I think the NFC Championship between the Packers at Seahawks or the Cowboys at Seahawks is very interesting. Let's start with the Packers. There was a play from a couple seasons back known as the Fail Mary, where there was a very controversial call. The NFL had a big, extensive talk about it. They talked about if they needed to make a rule change in the offseason. If these teams were to meet in the NFC Championship, that would surely be a storyline, and it would be interesting to see how that game would go, knowing that this call's already been made in their series history. More interesting is that this year, the Cowboys defeated the Seahawks in Quest, which is where the game will be if the Seahawks advance. They're the 1 seed. It will be at home. If the Cowboys had to face the Seahawks again, it would be threatening for the Seahawks because they already lost to the Cowboys at home, and the Seahawks to date have never lost at their home field since it's been built in the playoffs. They're undefeated at this field in the playoffs, a streak that's likely due to be broken. Making matters more interesting, in this game, anyone who watched this Cowboys-Seahawks game will likely remember what I'm about to tell you. In this game, in the fourth quarter, when it looked like the Cowboys had the game in hand, the game clock went from 3 minutes and change to a minute 16, like this, Truth Seeker. Just out of nowhere. Went to a minute 16. And I was at a sports bar, and earlier in the game I'd been telling this guy about the numerology and what I'd been studying, and he thought it was nuts. And when this happened, he made a quack at me about, you see how that happened? I bet you think that number means something. And I said, well, if you flip that number upside down, it is 911. And I pointed out that the word country in simple English gematria sums to 116. Words like powerful, it's a pretty significant word or number in gematria, Truth Seeker, and in numerology. And anyhow, I just think about that now. If these teams meet again in the NFC Championship, perhaps that was some sort of signal. Maybe there was some reason they did that even I didn't catch on. But that definitely happened in the game between these two. A weird game clock glitch that went to a curious number. Over here in the AFC picture, we had what I envisioned might be the AFC Championship. So Andrew Luck is going to have to beat Peyton Manning on his home field to advance to the AFC Championship. Truth Seeker, if I had to make a curious bet this weekend, I would bet on this upset right here. Colts over Patriots. Baltimore Ravens over Patriots. Because should the Colts win, it would set up a Indianapolis Colts versus Baltimore Ravens AFC Championship. And remember, this all goes back to 44 years ago when they were the Baltimore Colts. So I could see this upset, Ravens over Patriots. I heard a talk on ESPN radio about how Harbaugh has Belichick's number. The storyline is there. Remember earlier this year, the Colts defeated the Ravens by a score of 20-13. 20 plus 13 is 33. When they met in the playoffs last, Baltimore won that game by a score of 24-9. 24-9 is 24 plus 9 equals 33. This is the year Baltimore went to the Super Bowl and faced the 49ers. Baltimore versus 49ers. This year is Super Bowl 49. Think about it. This is Super Bowl 47 with a 33-minute blackout. 47 is significant to Andrew Luck. Why? Because the word luck in simple English gematria equals 47. And earlier this year, I was wrong about something too with Andrew Luck. I predicted that he was going to beat the Cowboys at home because the date had numerology of 47. It looked like Andrew Luck Day to me. Well, these people might very well meet again in the Super Bowl. If we are following the path of 44 years earlier, perhaps the Super Bowl again will be Baltimore Colts versus Dallas Cowboys. And you know why that might make a lot of sense, Truth Seeker? Because of Tony Romo. This guy has endured a lot in his career in the NFL. He had this humiliating moment in Seattle where he fumbled the ball at the goal line. The Cowboys should have beat the Seahawks and advanced, but he fumbled, didn't make it, and then he has this infamous photo. And he's also notorious for choking in the playoffs. Tony Romo just turned 34 years old. That's the 9th Fibonacci number. He wears the number 9, just like Matthew Stafford. We had 9 versus 9 today. Very important numerology. This Super Bowl is also going to fall in place during a time of the 34th anniversary of the Georgia Guidestones, which are on the 34th parallel. Is there something there? Maybe not. Just catching it, it's a possible thing. Tony Romo might be the ripe age to finally make it to the Super Bowl. And when you think about the Dallas Cowboys, they're one of the most popular teams in the league. It's been a while since their team's been to the big game. You know, they might be due. And again, True Seeker, going back to this 44-year narrative, which is what I started with, it's what it shows. And honestly, True Seeker, part of the reason I probably overlooked this or didn't consider it is because I have to tell you, growing up a 49er fan, I was once a major Cowboys hater. And that bias, it might still be there in my brain, True Seeker. Just letting you know my flaws. So, you know, I'm wrong, but that doesn't mean that I'm all the way wrong. And as a school teacher, I used to teach kids that it's okay to be wrong. Being wrong is all right because a lot of times you learn things by being wrong. Earlier this year, I was wrong about the World Series. I really thought the Royals were going to win it after they advanced based on the numerology. But then when I had analyzed the day that the Giants won and how that lined up with the numerology of the coach and so much more, including news headlines from earlier in the day that connected back to the NFL through the number 53, it just all made perfect sense. But hindsight is 20/20, right? So for those of you who follow my blog, this is a live and learn. You know, we're pioneering something here, and we're going to make some mistakes along the way. That's also why I'm not a betting man. So for all of you who bet based on my knowledge and lost some money, I apologize. You know, I feel bad leading people into losing money, but these are the risks of gambling. So let's stay on the path, True Seeker. I got some more videos coming. Thanks as always. Until next time. Encore, True Seekers. Some of you tell me you miss seeing my face, so I'm going to show one of my older videos because I'm going back and looking and I'm realizing the evidence for the Cowboys has been here. Recall that in week 3, the Colts whooped up on the Jaguars, and that's how I predicted they'd be in the Super Bowl, and I used the Seahawks example from the season prior. Well, in week 9, I showed this video curiosity with the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm realizing that this game is also against the Jaguars. And I think I really missed a clue here, True Seeker. I think we had the Cowboys information all along. So check this out. Maintaining the mainstream. The word mainstream equals 113, guys. You know that? Anyhow, let's check this out. Just watch this. This is so trippy. And I'm going to hold my hands up here so you guys can see I'm not doing anything glitchy. This is how the real halftime newscast was on this highlight. What I want you to pay attention to is that it's numbered 88, and they're emphasizing 68 on a 68-yard touchdown pass. Cowboys and Jaguars, they're a whole nother topic. But check this out. These are the two numbers that are super, super important in Ebola next to 33. And just watch this. I'm going to keep my hands up here.
Dallas Cowboys, Tony Romo coming back after missing last week's game against Arizona with a factory bone access. Yeah, they call it officially. Okay, good. Rolling right, finding Jason Witten on the 2-yard touchdown. 10-7, Romo off way present with 3 touchdowns. Witten on the 2-yard touchdown. 10-7, Romo off way present with 3 touchdown passes. Touchdown. 10-7, Romo off way present with 3 touchdown passes. Touchdown. 10 touchdown, a 35-yarder. 17-7 Dallas. Now back. And Romo throw deep, setting up, cutting down the right-hand side. Gorgeous pass to Dennis Bryant, pulls it in once again after the catch. Takes it in with all that strength and speed. 68-yard touchdown reception, 24-7 Cowboys. Strength and speed. 68-yard touchdown reception, 24-7 Cowboys on top. 68-yard touchdown reception, 24-7 Cowboys on top. 75th career touchdown. Congratulations, Stephen. 7-3.
All right, True Seekers. So there it was. That was the really weird highlight. It just kept glitching and showing the same thing over with the same audio. True Seekers, going back further, if you haven't watched my videos from the beginning and read my blog, you should know that I've noticed how sports tie in with what's the major news stories of the year. For example, let's go back in time. After September 11th, we had the emergence of Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Remember the controversial call against the Raiders. And then the legacy of Tom Brady and Adam Vinatieri. And they even made new rules for Tom Brady as they went. They created this rule called the Tuck rule. And, it just seems so obvious to me that the Patriots in the wake of 9/11, when they were brewing this false patriotism at home. This year, Dallas has been central in the news story because of the Ebola story. And again, True Seeker, Dallas is a 49 word. Dallas sums to 49. So, Dallas really is a good pick for this Super Bowl. I'll point out that because they equal 49, this doesn't mean they're going to go. Steelers, with the S exception, also sums to 49. Obviously, they didn't go. You know what's interesting, though? In the movie Black Sunday, which was released on 3/11 in the year 77, the Steelers and the Cowboys are in the Super Bowl, and they had the real Steelers playing that game, just like they had them doing The Dark Knight Rises. And in that game, the plot of the movie is that there's going to be a terrorist attack at the Super Bowl. What's interesting is both Steelers and Dallas sum to 49, just like this upcoming Super Bowl that for the first time doesn't have any terrorism insurance in the wake of 9/11, and a whole bunch of other things lining up on it, True Seeker. So, yeah, Dallas, maybe they're right for being there. If I had to make some Super Bowl picks from here on out, I would say it's going to be Dallas versus the Colts. All right, True Seeker, until next time.